In the name of God, who creates, redeems, and sanctifies. Amen. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? Pretty rude question, right? But the people around Nathanael probably would not have actually been shocked by this question, because they knew that Nazareth really wasn't much to look at. According to one source, it was an insignificant agricultural village, not mentioned in the Old Testament, the historian Josephus, or rabbinic writings. It's thought there were fewer than 2,000 residents in Nazareth at Jesus' time. The only reason anyone had heard of it was because it was located on a major trading route. And so merchants would have come through on their trading missions. Galilee, the region in which Nazareth is located, was also itself less than remarkable, we're told. Now, it's true King David united Galilee, Israel, and Judah into one kingdom, but his son Solomon fought so little Galilee that he traded 20 of its towns to the king of Tyre for building materials for his temple. And the king of Tyre was not impressed and wrote, "What kind of cities are these that you've given me, my brother?" And the area of Galilee even acquired a nickname that's translated as "good for nothing." Galilee, along with the other regions of Palestine, was conquered by succeeding empires. It had long been a region of diverse peoples mingling together. Isaiah referred to it as Galilee of the nations. By the time of Jesus, Galilee was in Roman hands, and while home to a large number of Jewish people, it was largely populated by non-Jews. Nathanael's question, can anything good come out of Nazareth, was posed not just because Nazareth was an insignificant farming village, but also because it was an impure place. It was overrun by people of other religions, and Jewish orthodoxy was rare to find. How could someone who grew up there be the Messiah? It was inconceivable. But still, Philip responded, "Come and see." Now, I know a little bit about places that seem insignificant, because I grew up in a place a little bit like Nazareth, translated to the plains of central Texas, an hour and a half south of Dallas, 3 hours north of Houston. The closest city was Waco, 40 miles to the west. It felt like the middle of nowhere. And the name of my town was even a little bit uncertain because of the pronunciation. In Spanish, it should be Mejia, but if you're just passing through, you might read it as Mexia. But astoundingly, bafflingly rather, the local pronunciation is something else entirely, Mejia. Mejia is not a particularly lovely place, and there was not a lot going on there when I was growing up, either economically or recreationally. There was, however, a lot of poverty, a lot of racism, a lot of substance abuse, and a lot of teen pregnancy. And a quarter of the kids that I started high school with had dropped out by the time we graduated. It was a town of great deprivation, but it was also filled with good people trying to survive and thrive. And my mother and I built a good life there. After my parents divorced, my mom went back to college while supporting us with jobs in retail as a substitute teacher. She eventually earned her degree, became a teacher, and bought a home. Mejia might not have been her dream, but it was home for us. Later on, through scholarships and financial aid, I went on to graduate with honors from a prestigious university. And when that happened, my college priest, who himself knew something about small towns, having grown up in one in the Northeast, remarked, "Well, you've come pretty far from Mejia, haven't you?" And my mother was offended, understandably. And she later on asked me, what's so wrong with Mejia? And I could see the hurt on her face. But it wasn't really so much about our town as a place that she was reacting to, but rather because it stood in line for our home, our life. And my mother feared that in leaving home, she was losing me. I changed churches, rejecting the biblical literalism of my youth for the more open-minded approach of the Episcopal Church. With the support of my church, I embraced who I was and am as a gay person, to the dismay of my mother, who held more traditional views. This was just not the life she wanted for me. Where I saw my college and church communities as having opened up new horizons of my mind and heart, she blamed them as meddling ivory tower elitists who had brainwashed me. But of course, I had not been brainwashed. I merely accepted the invitation of these communities to come and see what they were about. So in college, through classes and research, I gained new perspectives on seeing the world. But more questions were raised than answers provided. Along the way, friends invited me to their churches, and I found a home and one which welcomed me, all of me, to join with them as we sought to follow the way of Jesus together. I wanted my mother to share my experience, so I invited her to visit my new church home. She did not care much for the smells and bells of high Anglican worship, but she was surprised by the warmth of the people. She also appreciated the regular celebration of Holy Communion, so unlike her charismatic church, where the Lord's Supper was observed perhaps once or twice a year at most. And then most of all what impressed her was that when the churches in her hometown stopped offering Christmas services on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day so that people could spend the holiday at home, she was glad that we could attend a candlelight Christmas service at the small local Episcopal church in our hometown. She never changed her mind about her church being more correct in its approach to the Bible than mine. She continued to disagree with me about many theological and political issues, but she came to feel less of a stranger in the church community that I now call home. And so I believe that each time we encounter that question, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Can anything good come out of this place or that place or those people? We can respond. Come and see. Come and see. Come and get to know us. And we will explore together. There's far too much division, polarization, and tribalism in this nation and in the world. Sadly, that's the way it's always been through history. That's why Galilee changed hands so many times as various empires fought for control of the ancient Mediterranean world. But Christ calls us to unity, calls the world to unity. And one of our tasks as his followers is to seek healing and peace within and among not just the nations, but also our communities and families. And no matter where you're from, no matter what you look like, no matter how you vote, it's so important for you to know that you are a child of God. And as children of God, our most important task is to love one another. And to do that, we build relationships in which we invite one another to come and see. And when we are invited, we accept, we go, and we see, and we discover together and get to know one another. The church invites us each week to come and see how God is at work in this community and in the world. We are invited to come and see Jesus in the faces of all those around us here in this church and out in the world. And I wonder, what would it be like if we leave this place, go out into Asbury Park, into Monmouth County, into New Jersey, and invite those around us to come and see what this church means to us? How will we share what Trinity means to us? Us, for whom this place means so much to so many. How will we tell our story? Now, We're developing a new website. We're laying plans to post more on social media. We advertise at Christmas and Easter in the newspapers. But what is true is that the most powerful invitation is personal. It comes from us as people, inviting other people face to face to come and see with us. We might feel some apprehension about inviting people to church and sharing what our faith means to us. But never forget, we have something great to tell people about. Something that they need. And trust me, if we don't do it, others are out there with unhealthy and dangerous messages, preying on people who are seeking to belong. For example, I recently watched a new documentary about a 21st century cult that recruited members through live streaming like a reality show. And the hook was that they seemed to be having so much fun together. But when people would come and see for themselves what this was all about, they felt an extraordinary sense of welcome. And the leader would say something like, "You're brilliant," to people who were so hurting and who never had that kind of affirmation in their lives. Unfortunately, once they found themselves there, they encountered a place of darkness, not one that would help them shine their light into the world. And so it's so important for communities of goodwill, communities who know something about truth and love, to have that same sense of welcome, that same spirit of telling people that the light of Christ shines in them. Yes, even in people who don't expect to see it themselves. Those people who need to hear that affirmation of God's love the most. And here at Trinity and in the Episcopal Church, we strive to share God's unconditional love in word and deed. We try to make sure that there's always room at the table, whether this altar or in our fellowship. We try to help people see themselves as children of God, worthy of love, interpersonal respect, and social equality. We're not a collection of perfect individuals, and we're not even perfect as a church. Sometimes we don't measure up to our goals and aspirations. Sometimes we try and don't quite make it. So as you all know, for example, we're still very much working towards our accessibility, our physical accessibility as a church. And we fall short in that way, and we're trying. But when we fall short, God's grace is abundant, and Jesus walks with us, guiding us back to the path of truth, justice, and love. People really need a place like this. They might find it in another spiritual community, and that's just fine. But there are people who need a place like this. And so we need to go out and invite them to come and see. But it's true, so many have been wounded by the wider Christian church, or by the faith in which they grew up. And so many now find religion irrelevant, because for so many it seems to do so little in the lives of the people around them. So people might well ask, can anything good come out of a church? Can anything good come out of religion that's been such a divisive force in history? Can anything good come out? But to that, I would respond, come and see. Come and get to know us. Come and feel the welcome that I know they will feel here in this place. So, invite your friends, invite your family, invite the hurting people of the world who need God's unconditional love. We're not always perfect, but we're trying. And we have a message that is one of truth and justice and love. The message of Christ. And so, the message is that we hear today, and that we are called upon to respond, to say, here I am. send me. The message is, come and see. Amen.